The silence you hear is Lambeau Field. It was empty anyway, but there's the final stunning score. The Vikings upsetting the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau 28-22. Yeah, I think the most shocking part about this game is the fact that the Vikings won this football game. 28-22 was the final score. Welcome to Vikings Postgame live from US Bank Stadium. I'm Mark Rosen, be joined by Pete Bercich here in just a minute as well, as the Minnesota Vikings found a way to beat the Packers in a really wild game, Pete Bercich, because it looked like in the first half the team that had the ball last was going to win this football game the way those two offenses were going back and forth without a punt to be had.
No, in the beginning, it was kind of like the first matchup where the Vikings and the Packers each only possessed the ball a handful of times in the first half. So to get the ball twice in the first half, both ways, and for every team, each team that touched it, whenever they touched it to score a touchdown, that was a very, it's unique. You don't see that a lot. And then it was the second half. The Vikings, when they came out in the second half, I was surprised that they took the wind to their back in the first and the third quarters. They capitalized on that. They scored 14 points in the third quarter to give themselves enough of a cushion to keep this a 28-22 game.
Hey, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up on this show. We're going to hear from news conferences from head coach Mike Zimmer, from Kirk Cousins. Of course, recapping Dalvin Cook's big day against the Packers coming off that injury. What an afternoon that young man had. But let's take a look, Pete, first of all, at the highlights, because the Packers took the ball and they went right down the field and scored a 13-play, 75-yard drive.
Yeah, it took a lot of time off the clock, and the amazing part is just if our young corners can start to know where they are in the field and know what they have to leverage, they're going to shut down some of those plays.
Man, did we see a lot of this, and so did the Green Bay Packers defense.
Well, when you run the ball like that and you can be explosive in the running game, it just takes it out of the defense.
Rodgers doing his thing. Looked like a little bit of a pick play, but Devontae Adams was his really only target as far as wide receivers go.
It was. You compare that, 14 reception, 156-yard, 2-touchdown game. Last time we played, they did a nice job.
Dalvin Cook doing his thing here. 4 touchdowns in all. First Viking to score 4 touchdowns since Ahmad Rashad back in 1979 or something? A long time ago.
It has been a long time. And for Kirk Cousins, I mean, how many third downs did he throw across the yard to gain? I mean, basically the best weapon that he had on third down was the check down or a screen to Dalvin Cook.
And here it is, the final play of the game. DJ won him from behind, and again, the shocking part for me was that the refs didn't call it an incomplete pass. It seems like that's the way it always goes.
Yeah, it does. And Paul, I'm sorry.
You're used to talking to Paul.
I know. I've been talking to Paul Allen for the last 3 hours. They're all excited about it. Sorry about that, Rosie. But the main thing, and again, looking at the final statistics, Paul, Rosie, is that there are 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers. Green Bay had 1. We had 0. That's where it all starts. That's where it all begins. And then you take a look at the 173 yards rushing. I mean, Really, they didn't ask Kirk Cousins to do much today. He really didn't have to do much today. Dalvin Cook took it on him. I'm very impressed by the offensive line and the job they did today. I'm also very impressed by C.J. Ham at fullback and our tight end group. Our tight end group did some of the heavy lifting to get Dalvin not just through the defensive line but into that second level, and they made some of those plays explosive.
I was right behind you when you were doing the broadcast with Paul Allen, and you said maybe the Packers had a little bit of quit in that defense looking at the way they were approaching things, and maybe Dalvin Cook just broke their spirit on the offensive line.
I think so. I mean, how else do you explain it? I mean, Dalvin Cook, he's an amazing football player, but you take a look at the Packers and what they did this week. I mean, they had a walkthrough practice on Wednesday. You had guys like David Bakhtiari and Aaron Jones who were questionable for this game. They could have gone. It seems almost as if they are waiting for this Thursday night game against San Francisco. And it just seemed like that mentality was there and it was present. You get a guy like Dalvin Cook to get in there and just not let up, keep the foot on the gas pedal. A good defensive front now with Green Bay. They struggled. They struggled to stop Dalvin Cook. They couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop him on the ground, no matter how many guys they put in the box. That's an amazing thing. We haven't seen anything like that since Adrian Peterson's been here. Well, for one guy to really steal the show. 30
carries. My goodness, that is workman-like performance, and then some. 163 yards. Most importantly, the 5.4 average per carry and the 3 touchdowns. But it was Dalvin Cook's day, and it's his team right now.
It is, and again, out of the backfield. I mean, he had 2 receptions for 63 yards, one touchdown. Both of those were key third downs. And so Dalvin Cook was the offense. He was the fire. That's what this team needed. You lose an Ngakoue in the bye week. You have a lot of question marks. You needed someone to come out there and provide that fire. And Dalvin Cook offensively absolutely did. I think this game exposed a couple other things that the Packers need. They need a number 2 wide receiver. They're out there, and it was interesting to watch. They're out there with regular personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back. And basically. They kept Tyler Ervin in there as almost like another wide receiver. So Green Bay has some issues, I think, and they have some personnel issues that they're going to have to take care of. But I think mainly the big thing was just the attitude of this team. They had some fight in them. They had some dog in them. They went in there. They went on the road. I think, again, Green Bay, for whatever reason, I think they just took the Vikings a little bit too lightly today, and it allowed them to get up on them by 2 touchdowns.
I'll be anxious to hear from both head coach Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins. We'll carry those news conferences for you here in just a little bit. How much the wind played in a factor in the game plan itself? Because Rodgers had a throw at the end of the game, but neither they weren't throwing 40, 50 passes in this football game. Definitely one side favored the other in terms of the wind conditions, but it certainly played into the Vikings' strengths today, running the football and doing what they had to do to maintain time of possession.
Yeah, it did, and I think it had more to do with special teams in this game than it did anything else, and that was a surprise. Again, when you win the toss, you get to make one decision at a time, so you defer. Green Bay says, we'll take the ball. You get to pick what end zone you want to defend, and we chose to have the wind at our backs the first and third quarter. Which was interesting to me because it's saying, all right, we want Rodgers to have the wind in the second and the fourth. I was scratching my head a little bit about that, but that win did matter, and I think it mattered most really in the kicking game more so than anything else.
Now going back to the first game of the season, which of course was right behind us here at U.S. Bank Stadium, Green Bay dominated the Vikings. Maybe they did take it a little easy on them as well, but I know head coach Mike Zimmer is now talking with the media from Lambeau Field, so we're going to try to catch up with Mike Zimmer right now.
I thought this was a really good team win today. We fought like crazy offensively. I thought we did a really nice job of, scoring those first 2 drives, kind of controlling the game, and then coming out in the third quarter and playing a lot better. We didn't turn the ball over today. We still had some penalties, but we didn't beat ourselves. And then, defensively, we played the run a lot better in the second half, which was a big key to it. And then, we kind of ran out of DBs there in the third and fourth quarter. So we were trying to just manufacture some ways to get these guys covered. They're a good football team. They got an unbelievable quarterback. They've got a great receiver, and fortunately, their one runner didn't play today. So I'll take questions.
When you mentioned that you ran out of DBs. When you have to ask somebody to do a position switch that they probably didn't practice all week, do you have to abandon a lot of the weekly defensive game planning that you've done?
Well, it depends on the person that we put in there, but not necessarily. At that point in the game, it was not about pressures and different things. It was more about coverage, and those guys should know those pretty well.
Mike, speaking of DBs, how is Cameron Danzler doing?
Cam's doing better. He went to the hospital, evaluated for concussion. They're bringing him back now, and he should head back to us tonight. With us tonight.
Mike, you talk about how hard this team works. Did you see this game coming? Did you see this team coming out and performing like they did today?
It's hard to say, Joe. I'm not the best predictor in the world. I rode him pretty hard in practice this week. We've got so many young guys and so many young guys that we're trying to get ready for prime time, I guess is the best way to say it. And, it just takes more time than we'd like. Now that with the corner situation that we've had and, the things that we've had to do has just been, makes it tougher and tougher. We bring a guy in off the street and he's got to go play in a game. So, but we had a lot of rookies out there today on defense. They played very hard. They didn't always play well, but they played hard and, and they made some mistakes, and hopefully we can correct those tomorrow.
Like when a player like DJ Wanham comes up with that strip sack at the most needed time, Eric Hendricks was saying this is what the rookies should learn, that they can make a big difference in a game, just one play. How important is that for a young guy like that?
Yeah, well, I think it's important for not only him, but other guys to see that as well. And then, part of the thing with DJ is, and with all young players, is learning to trust your athleticism and kind of just free flowing and playing. And I think maybe that kind of thing will help him in the future as far as, hey, I was able to do it on a big play, and I can do it again.
Mike, plenty of superlatives have been used about Dalvin Cook, but what can you say about Dalvin's 4-touchdown performance today?
Well, Dalvin is a terrific player. He's a great runner. The screen run, I think, was an outstanding play by him. We did get some guys downfield and block for him. But, part of it, too, is, I thought we had a good scheme against them, and I thought our offensive line did an outstanding job. So Dalvin's great. There's no doubt about that. I'm glad he's on our team, but the offensive line and the receivers and the tight ends did a nice job blocking for him as well.
Mike, did you expect to see different things from the Packers because of the wind and just how they approached their game plan?
You'd have to ask them. I think they probably started with a little bit few more runs than early in the game than they did previously. So maybe that was it. I don't know.
Hey, Mike,
go ahead, Craig.
What went into the decision to send Gladney on that 3rd and 9? It's always a risk to blitz Aaron, but that seemed to work out really, really well for you guys.
Well, we kind of had a feel for the protection as the game was going on, and the guys upstairs told me what the protection was, what it predominantly was, and so I thought we had a chance to maybe get a free runner.
And then on 4th and 9, were you surprised at all that they picked up the flag on Anthony? Looked like he might have been there a little soon.
I thought he was going for the ball, Mark. So I got reprimanded for that, though.
Mike, this is a game you had to patch things together, a lot of coaching involved, a lot of young guys playing well. Do these mean more to you or at some point? I mean, do you feel a little more jacked up after a game like this?
Maybe later. Right now, I think I got to get some of that. What's that hair for men stuff called, to get the gray hairs back out? It was very, very hectic on the sideline today. We had a rookie run out there and didn't get off. He wasn't supposed to be out there and had to get off the field, so we got a penalty on that. We had corners that were gone that hurt. We had to play with a nickelback that wasn't there, and just trying to manufacture all those things and get the calls that they could execute as well. And, but there's so many things I see during the game, Rodgers scrambling around and the corners underneath the receiver, and he's staring at Rodgers instead of getting underneath the receiver. And there's so many things that hopefully we can teach off of this tape and, be better for it in the future.
Mike, when Matt LaFleur makes that comment earlier this
Excuse
week,
me?
when Matt LaFleur makes that comment earlier this week that Jefferson's, a number one receiver and he's, 6 games into his rookie career, did that kind of maybe foreshadow or anticipate in your mind that he would draw the shadow from Jair Alexander?
We anticipate all those things if that's what's happening. But when I saw it, if he was in the slot, Alexander went outside. So, I don't know.
Mike, what do you tell your defense? I mean, they opened the game with a 13-play drive and then a 15-play drive. What do you tell them at that point to settle them down? Was it as simple as you said, just being better against?
Well, being better, we made some adjustments in the run game. We had added some calls in there that, at halftime, once we got a kind of a feel for what they were trying to do in the running game. But, we had 1st and 20, and we had really a cover 2 blitz. So, because I'm trying to protect the corner, so we got a cover 2 blitz. And, they throw it in the flat, and we miss a tackle, and it goes for 20-some yards. It's things like that that's just so frustrating that, you just got to keep. We called it again later, and it worked good. So it's just. But it's what I talked to the team about all week is effort and execution. Trying to execute what we're trying to be, whatever the defensive or offensive call is, or special teams. Execute and give great effort. And and if that happens, then they're better than us, and they're better than us.
Mike, what was the thinking on calling Hercules up and having him play some defensive end and being in there at the end, rushing the passer?
Well, we've been practicing an end for quite a while now, and so we just thought it'd be another good change-up. He's got some strength and quickness for that position.
Mike, I know you didn't get a sack until the last play of the game, but what did you think about the way that defensive line group pressured Rodgers?
Yeah, I thought they did a good job. I thought he's a tough guy to sack because he can move so well in the pocket. We didn't allow him to scramble, except I think one time maybe. So that, that was good. We had, we try to be careful with him because once he gets out of the pocket, it's bad news. And but I thought there was, the one time when we had 12 guys on the field, I think we had a sack there and it got called back. But it's not all about sacks. It's about playing team defense.
Hey, Mike, how important was it to answer their first score in order to stay within your offensive game plan? Usually they're able to get out to a score, 2 scores, and make teams have to throw to chase. How important was that first drive and score? Yeah, it was big, because when you go out there and they go down and score in the first play of the series or first drive of the series, that kind of gets some of the momentum out of you, but then you go back right back down and score and say, okay, this is going to be a ball game. So, that was really good. It was big by our offense. The offense, I thought Kubiak did an outstanding job today, and so it was good all the way around.
Mike, with a win like this, with a win like this coming up ahead of the trade deadline and the magnitude of it, does it change potentially the direction the team was going to go or might go from here on out?
I don't believe so. I mean, last year we were pretty good at the trade deadline. It just depends, on what kind of offers we get or what kind of things we can come up with. It really has nothing to do with the wins at this point in time.
Mike, is this the craziest day you've had on the sidelines where you're losing guys left and right and you're trying to keep it all together and not lose your mind because you've got to teach them while it's all going on around you?
Well, I think, Jim, part of it was pretty crazy. The other part is, they've got Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, and who I think Aaron Rodgers is the best in the business. So trying to manipulate ways to figure out how to stop him, I guess, don't stop him, I never felt like the game was in our grasp, even with the 57 seconds left and, he's got the ball in his hand and no timeouts. With all the young guys I got and playing at different spots, it was pretty rough. I'm worn out.
Mike, sorry. I didn't know if you were finished yet. I guess finally, giving it to Dalvin Cook 30 times. I mean, you said he had a good scheme. Gary had a good plan. Teams haven't done that against them basically since the NFC Championship last year. What did you see that you thought your front plus Dalvin could give you that kind of game today?
Well, we always hope that Dalvin can give us that kind of game, and we did a lot of the things that we typically do. The wide zone. We've had a few inside zones. And some of it was at the end of the game where we were going to run the ball a few times more anyway. So in the fourth quarter, I think we ran it, I don't know, quite a few times. So that added to the mix. But when you have success running the ball, that adds to it. Kirk was 11 out of 14 today. We didn't turn the ball over. If the win would have been better, we probably would have had some more play actions in there because of the running game. Okay, thank you.
And off the headsets they come. Mike Zimmer wrapping up a very exhausting game for him on the sidelines. And Pete, before we hear from Kirk Cousins, before we break down more of what happened in this game, I want to ask you kind of a big picture thing, because Mike Zimmer alluded, someone asked him a question about the trading deadline, which is coming up in a couple of days. The Vikings were 1-5 coming into this game today. A bad loss to Atlanta here on this field behind us. People are thinking, okay, they're better off tanking for Trevor, tanking for this person. They have 10 games left. Take us in the locker room, because I'm trying to emphasize as well, the players in that locker room don't give a rip about next year's draft, nor do the coaching staff. They got jobs on the line. They're playing for a lot. And the idea that somehow these games don't have the same significance to them with a 1-5 record as opposed to 5-1 is ridiculous from their standpoint.
And that's exactly right. The coach and the players, they go week to week. They may not, a lot of times you don't even know who you're playing next week because you're just focused on this week. That's why teams have what they call a general manager. The general manager, his job or her job, whatever, is to step back, look at the big picture and say, yes, we need to make a move here. We need to do something over here. How is it going to affect us in the draft? Coaches don't have the time, I don't think, to make those kinds of decisions, so it's up to the GM to do that. So, again, it's up to Spielman to think and to see if there's an opportunity to bring someone or make a move, to do something that's going to benefit this team in the long run, then they're going to go ahead and do that. It's not a desperation. It's not as if they're sitting back and saying, well, had we been 1-6, we wouldn't make this move, but because we just beat the Green Bay Packers, we're going to, no, it absolutely cannot and is not that way.
And win or lose, the bullseye is always on the quarterback, in this case Kirk Cousins and his future contract. But for today, he's the winning quarterback against Aaron Rodgers. And let's hear from Kirk right now from Lambeau Field.
First off, I'm relieved to hear that Cam Dantzler's doing okay, coming out of that scary situation. You never know how serious it is, so glad to hear that. And then just an excellent win on the road against a good football team. Hats off to our defense for the way they played, especially in the second half, holding a really good offense to only 22 points and making big play after big play. And then offensively, we made the most of our opportunities. We were able to control the clock, convert their downs, be productive in the red zone. And then you obviously got to tip your hat to Dalvin and the effort he gave today. Pretty impressive to have 4 touchdowns. And then, you also have to, anytime Dalvin plays that well, you got to look at, what CJ Ham did, what our tight ends did block, and what our O-line did. And you got to look at our coaches, on the run plays they put together, which were really well designed and I think kept Green Bay off balance for most of the game. So just great to, be going home now with a divisional win against a good opponent, and looking forward to building on it, hopefully. So I'll take any questions you have.
Hey, Kirk, how electric was Dalvin on that 50-yard TD catch? And just talk about how important that was to leading to the victory.
Yes, it was a third down. So if we don't get the first down, we're punting there. Not only do we get the first down, but he takes it all the way to the house. And, that's just ability. It's a talented player, showing what he can do. Great job by our offensive line. They got 2 really good cut blocks right after Dalvin caught the ball that sprung him. And then great blocking down the field for him to be able to do that and run away from the defense. Huge play in the game. And, Chris, I was going to ask you, was that pass interference on Irv, was that truly pass interference? I didn't get to see it.
That's like Harrison Smith asking me questions a couple weeks on the conference call. I'm going to use a line you've used. I'm going to have to watch the film.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Hey, Kirk, how important was it mentally to kind of go, toe to toe with them at the beginning? Once they score, your next possession, you score, and the back and forth, just to kind of like a chess match, but that mentally you guys were in it and you had to prove that.
Yes, I try to, just play in a vacuum and understand that you've got a job to do regardless of, what their offense is doing. If you stick to your task and run each play the way you need to run it, you really just stay in your lane. And, it was great to be able to, control the clock a little bit, stay on the field. It's been unique. Several games this season, we just haven't run a lot of plays, especially in the first half. We've been productive for drives, but it's only been like 2 possessions or 3 possessions in the entire half. So that's been unique, but you play the game that you have to play, and you find a way to win.
Hey,
and I can answer for Chris. I didn't think it was pass interference.
Thank you. All right. That helps. Because I in the field, I just thought I threw it right to him. I just didn't see it, but I wasn't sure.
It looked like a bad call.
Hey, Kirk, speaking of penalties, can you talk about take us through the stress that the first drive of the second half, the stress that you and the receivers put on their DBs, the 2 third-down penalties, the pass to BB when he's wide open. Just that in those penalties.
Yeah, third down is just such a critical down. So I believe all 3 of those plays are third down. The throw to Chad, he makes a great play, separates versus man coverage, which we've said all year long. Chad Beebe has been separating versus man coverage, which is not easy to do against NFL defensive backs, and he's doing it. And it was great to get him an opportunity to get the football because he's been putting that on tape week in and week out. And then, the corner route to Justin, again, don't know how obvious of a PI it was, but, obviously a huge call for us on a third down there. And then, again, 3rd and goal, they play a loaded zone there. Adam Thielen, I felt, was getting behind the covers. The safety jumped Dalvin on the front of the end zone, and so I put it over his head to Adam, but Adam couldn't get off the coverage, and grateful they called holding, and it gave us a chance to run it in.
Kirk, we obviously asked you a lot in recent weeks about your interceptions and what have you. None today. Just how much does it help in the overall game, from your standpoint, when you've got a guy like Dalvin Cook who's keeping defenses so honest and what have you?
Dalvin did a great job today. Anytime you score 4 touchdowns, you deserve some credit. And, just a great player, dynamic player. We're always trying to find ways to get him the football. I think of a 3rd and long early in the game when I checked it down to him and he gets us the first down in the kind of the strike zone, high red zone area. We ended up, I believe, getting a touchdown in that possession. So even those little plays that keep us on the field make a big difference. So it's not just running the ball. It's, getting involved with the ball in his hands if it's catching the ball or running it.
Kirk, how much did the wind affect you when you're trying to throw the ball out there today?
Yeah, the wind was kind of the story of the day from warm-ups on, just trying to manage it and understand it. It was coming in from one end zone. You could see the flags at the top of the stadium, but then when you're on the field, it was actually swirling and flipping. So the way we were going in the fourth quarter was actually the challenge, and then the way we were going in the third quarter was the preferred way to be going, but it was actually the opposite of the flags at the top of the stadium. So you were just kind of always paying attention to it and being aware of it. And, usually you just trust your instincts when you're playing with the wind. And it was a challenge today, especially then when you add the temperature.
I think Aaron Rodgers said something this week about looking at the flags and figuring out it's the opposite of that. Did you hear him say that, and did you file that away at all?
No, actually, our equipment managers were on top of it. When I got out there for warm-ups, 2 hours before the game, just throwing in a sweatshirt and pants, they said, if you'll notice the flags blowing that way, but look at the flags on the goalposts, and you can feel. And then they even said, down in one part of the field, you'll have less wind in general than the other about 80 yards of the field. So they were on top of it, and I hadn't been out there for 2 minutes, and they had the full answer.
Do you normally get that level of detail from the equipment managers on like the specific weather conditions at different parts of the stadium?
Yeah, our guys do a great job. Dennis, Aaron, Adam, and Terrell, they're on top of it. They take pride in it. And, they got the longer length cleats for us every time we come here because this grass can be a little different and you can slip a little bit. So they know all the ins and outs. They've been doing it a long time. And I trust what they say.
Kirk, how impressive has it, from your perspective, been to see Eric Kendricks kind of keeping this defense together?
Yeah.
I mean, there's injuries everywhere, and he's kind of that one consistent piece all season long.
Well, Courtney, I want to thank you for giving me a chance to talk about Eric because he's one of my favorite players. I say that when my boys Cooper and Turner are old enough, I'm going to get them Eric Kendricks jerseys because he's the player I want my kids to wear the jersey of. So I just think he's as good of a linebacker as there is in the league. The way he can cover a Devontae Adams down the middle of the field and also take on a pulling guard, to be that versatile and that athletic, it's special. And it's something I see every day in practice through OTAs and training camp. I go against him every day, and I just always tip my cap to him because I think he's not only a great athlete but a very smart player, and we're lucky to have him.
Can you walk us through a little bit on the Dean Lowry sack? Was that they just guessed right? Or
That's a great question. He did a good job. Yeah, he played up the field. They've done that to us now for several games that we've played them, and tough deal there. I'd love to be able to just throw it away when I see him there and not take the sack. That's probably the coaching point after the play, but it certainly is a tough play. The answer is, if he's going to get out of his gap like that and guess right, then we got to have a way to, come back and put him in a bind for doing that.
Yeah, and you mentioned that they've done that a while now. It seems like ever since week 2 of last year, they've been crashing in on the quarterback on play action. Does that limit your play action opportunities?
Yeah, we just want to be smart with that, in terms of how they're going to play it and then how we're going to respond. So we definitely take that into account.
All right. Mark Rosen back with Pete Bercich. And Pete, we look at Kirk Cousins' scatter chart. Not much to look at downfield because he threw a 1-yard pass to Dalvin Cook and he ran it 49 after that for the touchdown.
I mean, I'm surprised he even had to take a shower after this one. I mean, he didn't have a completion more than 10 yards down the field. I mean, and you do what you have to do, obviously. And if there is a game that you would like to not have your quarterback throwing the ball deep and down the field, this is it. The outdoor Lambeau, colder than you think, windy, that whole thing. But I think that just speaks to what Dalvin Cook did. I mean, how many third downs did we have that were 1-yard passes that went for touchdowns or for first downs? And conversely, you look at Rodgers. His wasn't deep and down the field much either. It wasn't until they got behind by a few scores that they were able to get or try to get deeper and more down the field.
I think he completed passes to 10 different receivers. The only one I really recognize is Devontae Adams. 7 receptions for 53 yards. So that's modest numbers to say the least. And in your opinion, the Packers need to make a move for another wide receiver before the trading deadline expires, because if they want to contend for not just the divisional title but potentially go to a Super Bowl, they have to improve in that area.
Yeah, they do. And so you take a look, and if you're a follower of the Packers, you look at this game and you realize now you have some limitations, especially at the wide receiver position. Devontae Adams, we all know that this is one of the most prolific quarterback to receiver duos since 2014. But behind that, Equanimeous St. Brown, he had a couple balls hit him in the hands. He had to come up with those things. Lazard, where is he? Valdez Scantling has had opportunities but hasn't come down with it. You're out there basically with 2 running backs and or 2 tight ends. You don't really have a number 3 receiver, and you really don't know who that number 2 receiver is. So teams that have the talent and the ability to shut down Devontae Adams, the Packers aren't going to have – they don't have a lot in the way of an answer. Now, again, getting Aaron Jones back, that will alleviate, I think, some of the pressure, at least, on the passing game. But, for the Packers and their offense, they're just missing – they need someone to step up into that number 2 receiver slot.
Getting back to Kirk Cousins' comment about the win and being a big factor, he talked about the equipment managers kind of pointing things out, and he got on the field. Aaron Rodgers also commented after the game saying, I think it was one of the worst for sure that he's ever dealt with, and he's played a lot of games at Lambeau Field in all sorts of weather conditions. But, that's what – and the Vikings, I think, other than playing in Chicago on a Monday night, they don't have many other outdoor potential weather-type games. You've played a lot of games with different weather conditions. Yeah. The wind can be a big factor, not just determining the way you're going to approach your offense, but the way the quarterback has to maneuver his team down the field. And we saw both these quarterbacks do it really easily early in the game, running the ball mostly, but having that in control.
And I think the Green Bay game plan was just that. I mean, early on, they were running the football, probably 60% of the time. Yeah. And then the throws that they asked Rodgers to make were not deep and down the field. Although he threw that, he was rolling out, and the one, the pass that Harrison Smith broke up, that was a on the run, flip of the wrist, 55-yard throw into the wind. I mean, Amazing. He has the arm strength to do that. Yeah. But both teams, it was prudent for them with the conditions to keep the ball on the ground, run the football. They were able to do so early, but the Vikings were able to be explosive. Our offense was able to be explosive, albeit on the ground, much more so than the Packers were. We didn't have as much that went on underneath. In the corners, they had a rough day with certain things, and especially in the red zone. But we didn't let anyone get behind us. If we let anyone get behind us, it was Tanyan. It was a tight end. If the tight end's going to be the deep threat, I think we can live with that.
Yeah, given the problems the Vikings had just keeping people healthy in the secondary, I would have kept throwing the ball from Aaron Rodgers all day long because he had the time to do it for the most part till the end when the Vikings put some rush on him. But the hero of the game, we know, Dalvin Cook, 30 rushes for 163 yards plus the 63 reception yards. Obviously, the media wanted to talk to Dalvin after the game, and let's catch up with Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin, you're only the third Viking ever to have a 4-touchdown game. Coming off an injury, you didn't have a full week of practice. What did it feel like walking off a game like that with what you accomplished today?
Felt great. I think this is my first win in Lambeau. That's most important. Get my team back on track and get the team back where it need to be at. We work so hard every day. Limitless hours that nobody know. And losing don't feel good. So getting the win today was most important for me. The stats is a plus, and it comes with a great performance, but winning is first for me.
Dalvin, at any point did you think going into this week that you would be on somewhat of a pitch count? I know that the coaches dispelled that notion completely, but obviously with the injury, you've never had this one. Was that something that you thought maybe we're going to try to ease me in a little bit, or did you know all the whole way that you're going to be full go?
Yeah, I got to commend Suggs, Dave, Roach, Matt, all those guys in the training room, the coaching staffs for just this whole process of how they handled it. They gave me that week off this whole week. They just been easing me in and getting my feet back under me. And the whole process was great for me. And, I responded to it good. So, the way I was feeling on Friday, I knew I was going to be ready to go.
Dalvin, can you take us through that screenplay, the 50-yard catch and run? I mean, that was just amazing.
Yeah, I've been telling the O-line all week, just throw. Just get in front of guys, and I'm going to do the rest. I'm going to make a play for you guys. And hats off to B.O. and all those guys for just getting in front of guys and just making plays for me to open up scenes. And I just seen daylight and just ran.
The downfield blocking was superb all game. Did you notice that out there?
Yeah, I was telling those guys all game, how much of an impact it was having for me, and what I was seeing, and they was doing a great job all day. Commend the offensive lineman for keeping Kurt off the ground, pretty much the whole day, and open the holes up for the backs to run through.
Hey, Dalvin, Coach LaFleur of the Packers just said that they never got the Vikings in a situation where they had to throw, it being a windy day. How much did it help getting that running game going with the wind, and you guys never really were in a position where you had to throw?
Yeah, it's been the opposite for us, all year. And in the first game of the year, they came out and controlled the time of possession by more than 20 minutes, I think. So, it was the opposite for us. And, just us going out there and matching score for score at the beginning was was an ideal situation for us going into the halftime. And, that was big. But, that time of possession and keeping Aaron Rodgers off the field as much as we can, and that was big. The running game was big today.
And what's with the sunglasses? Have you gone Hollywood on us?
Nah, I wore these in here. I wore these in here today. I don't want to show you how tired I am after the game.
Dalvin, it's not the same without fans, but how about the Lambeau leap for you?
Yeah, I always wanted to do it. I told him I was gonna get him to spike the first touchdown I scored, and I couldn't help myself but to go get me a leap in.
On that note, I mean, you've made it a point to give the guys who block for you their due. How important is that to you, of just being able to emphasize the work that, Irv, CJ, even Ezra Cleveland did for you today?
Yeah. You always appreciate what people do for you. I know how much I work, and I know how much those guys work. So you got to commend those guys too, because I'm grounded for my brother next to me. And, an award for them is me scoring a touchdown, and they don't get to score the touchdown. So I want them to feel the same feeling I feel when I'm in the end zone. And, those guys is the reason, I'm in front of you guys, giving you guys a winning speech.
I know on the other side of the ball, you saw the defense. First of all, EK having just a tremendous game, and then DJ Wanham getting that strip sack to end it. The defense kind of holding it up for you guys at the end. Pretty good, huh?
Believing. Coach Zim been on those guys more than anybody can imagine. And, he loves his defense, and he wants those guys to play at a high level because, we got some young guys stepping in some big shoes, and they stepped up today. They put us in situations for us to go out there as an offense to be successful. And, I commend our defense today, just responding to what Coach Zim has been putting on the table for them.
Dalvin, what did you see when Irv, your first touchdown, Irv comes across and makes that block on 91? How do you see that unfold as you're getting the ball?
I kind of had pretty much a similar run, like that same drive. But me and Irv, and one thing I know about Irv, he gonna communicate like when he's going through his blocking motions and when he's on the field. And he was telling me, that thing gonna open up backside, and Hammer pretty much told me too, and I seen it. And it was daylight from there.
And then first and 20 and 10 from the 20, and I think you had 4 straight runs, probably between the tackles. I mean, that just doesn't happen in the NFL. When's the last time you might have been in that situation where you carry the ball 4 times in the red zone and score?
That's Coach Zim football right there. That's all I can say. That's Coach Zim identity. And, and that's the type of football we play here in Minnesota.
Dalvin, Jim Lazarski with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Teams have not run on them and stayed with it from quarter 1 through quarter 4. How important was it that you guys didn't deviate from I know there was success, but to not deviate from that plan, even when, they were moving the ball on offense, that you stayed with giving it to you, frankly?
Yeah. Hats off to Coach Cool, Rico, Coach KP, all those guys for staying with the run game and, just believing in us up front and just knowing the work we put in. And the speech Coach Cool gave to us Sunday night, really made us believe that he believed in his group. And we know he's been believing in us all year. But just to have him in that room with us, tremendous leader, as much confidence as he got in us. So, hats off to those guys for believing in the run game today.
What did Coach Kubiak say in that speech to you?
Just how much he know we work so hard, how much he know the coaches work so hard because he push them and he pushes us and just know that, he appreciate us so much. And, you don't get speeches like that so often. Man.
Last couple for Dalvin.
Oh, hey, Dalvin, I know you talked about Everson Griffin coming in last week. How about you got Adrian Peterson coming in Sunday? How do you feel that he's still going at age 35?
It's crazy. I know how my body be feeling after a season. So to be doing it for that long and doing it so good at the high level, there's no words for it. Just an all-around great person. And just from speaking to him over the occasions that I was in contact with him, great person off the field, and he gave me some tips. So, I'm looking forward to seeing him again and, I'm looking forward to seeing Ev too. I thought it was going to be week 11, but it's sooner. So, it should be fun, man. Fun matchup for both of those guys returning back home.
Dalvin, what's on your hat? Is that a chef on your hat? Nah, just sell those.
I got a website. It's on my Instagram.
There you go. Awesome.
Appreciate y'all.
Wear the chef's hat and the shades. A good look for Dalvin Cook, first Viking to score 4 touchdowns since Ahmad Rashad back in 1979. We talked to Ahmad just the other day. We're going to have him featured on a Skull Stories another week or so. But he's the moneymaker. I mean, he's the guy they paid. And if we take a look at the highlights of what happened today, it actually started, in case you missed the beginning of it, the Green Bay Packers coming out and just looking like, well, they picked up right where they left off from the first game here, Pete.
Yeah, and, they run the football. You get Gladney on the out, not getting on the outside of Adams. It's a big mistake, but they moved the ball well the first 2 drives. Both offenses did.
Dalvin exploding for that touchdown, the first of 4.
Yeah, that was a
There's
great
a Lambeau
answer.
leap.
There's the Lambeau leap. We always wanted to do that. I mean, but this is the back and forth that we had early. And it was, short passes underneath Devontae Adams, especially in the red zone. But the Packers and the Vikings both were running the football.
Yeah, easy pickings for Dalvin Cook at that point with that kind of hole and the Packers' inability to make a arm tackle.
All right, now we're starting to get in the third quarter, and the Vikings, and everybody knows that the Vikings are going to run the football, and they all know who's going to get it, but yet he's still able to do it. We're talking 3rd and 9 right here.
Yeah.
Twice today, Cousins with 3rd and short. Just throwing either a swing route or a screen to Dalvin Cook, and we're able to turn that into a touchdown. That's an amazing play by Dalvin Cook.
Biggest play of the game. Of course, then DJ Wan coming up with the sack right here, the fumble, and the Vikings recover. They had to review it to make sure it was not a forward pass. Shockingly, it went in the Vikings' favor, Pete Bercich, and that's how it ended, 28-22.
Well, I mean, you're not going to see many games like this. You're not going to see a lot of games in the NFL where one man can take over and do what he did. I mean, we haven't really seen it since Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson was able to do this kind of production and be able to come back week after week. That's why Adrian Peterson's a once-in-a-decade style of running back. But what we didn't have to do is we didn't really have to depend on our quarterback to throw the football down the field on a windy day. Cousins has been struggling, let's face it, and the best way to get him back on track is to just stick to the short stuff, stick to the run after catch, and that was basically what it was, a quick throw to Thielen. Thielen breaks a tackle, boom. Yep. Jefferson, same kind of thing. It was a quick rhythm style. We don't have that short passing game, but it was nice to see a few passes go to Irv Smith Jr. Everybody blocked well today. But in the passing game, hopefully we can build on some of those shorter routes, and Cousins can get back into some kind of a rhythm.
Yeah, this makeshift offensive line, Ezra Cleveland now in it, Elflein maybe getting close to return, Bradbury playing at a higher level today, but the run offense, and all the offensive linemen, they love to run the football. They live for days like this.
Yeah, and I remember Mike Tice would always say that you look at an offensive lineman, 300 and some odd plus pounds, they want to go forward, right? they want to go, they want to spend their day going this way, not backward. And it's a mentality. If you're dropping back and you're pass setting and you're defensive, right? All day long, there's a mental toll eventually. I think that takes. And those guys had to have had a ton of fun today, being able to just fire off the ball. And this is a very, very talented, very, very good Packer defensive front. Kenny Clark, Dean Lowry, Zadarius Smith, Rashawn Gary, Montravius Adams. That's a good front that we were able to move the football. We just had to get past that front line into the secondary, and then Dalvin Cook did the rest.
Well, let's take a look at Dalvin Cook's rushing chart and kind of break it down a little bit as well, because he was all over the field, and even with the screen passes you mentioned on a 3rd and 9, but he covered a lot of real estate today.
He covered more ground than Lewis and Clark today. And it's a very balanced, and that's what the coaches are going to like to see. It's not just a cutback; it's getting outside and his ability. And above and beyond all this, he pass protected very well today too. He was called upon on a couple of plays, and he stepped up and blocked a few guys. And did a great job picking up blitzes. It was a complete game, and we needed somebody on this team to step up and say, you know what, follow me, I'm your leader, and it was Dalvin Cook that did it.
Help us break this down here, Pete.
Right, well, you have the great front side block by O'Neal and Kyle Rudolph, and then Irv Smith bending it back and cutting things off on the outside. So it's the tight ends, right? It's Rudolph getting to the second level, O'Neal staying on, and then Rudolph just kicking out on Preston Smith, and Dalvin Cook able to cut back into that hole. So great job blocking.
And on the screen pass, so again, on a 3rd and 9, you don't expect this to go for 50.
No, you have 3 Green Bay Packers right there. You see what I mean? You have an extra defender, and Dalvin just cuts it back and then weaves his way.
My goodness.
And his ability to set up blocks and things in front of him is absolutely amazing. And just get your talented guys the ball in space, and that's what we did there.
They always talk about the great running backs have the great vision. And Alexander Madison's a really nice running back, but you could tell the difference. Yeah. He's not Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook, maybe things just slow down a little bit for him. When Adrian Peterson was in his prime, the same way. But Dalvin can do things athletically that Adrian can't do, like catch the football.
I think Dalvin Cook is comparing him to Adrian. No one I've ever seen ran the ball like Adrian Peterson. No one. But Cook is a much more refined. He's a better receiver. Pass protector, he can do all those things. What I love a lot about Dalvin Cook today was there was a play early when he cut back and he was tackled by Jair Alexander, and he got up and grabbed Jefferson and told Justin Jefferson, "Hey, you kick him out to the sideline, I'm going that way." So, you're making everyone around you accountable. You're making everybody carry their water and saying, "Hey guys, we could score on a lot more runs. You wide receivers, everybody has to block." So, the other part that stood out was when Alexander Madison had a cutback run, and he had a one-arm tackle by Kenny Clark. Mm-hmm. You don't see a one-arm tackle on Dalvin Cook. You don't see, very rarely do you see the first guy to the ball bring him down. He's just very, very good center of gravity, and he can start, stop, and cut. Very, very tough for one man to bring him down.
You brought up a great point, Pete Bercich, about the fact that offensive linemen like to keep moving forward, not backward, to pass protect. And Kirk Cousins didn't have to do much of that today to throw the football. And it really was fun. Take a look at the film breakdown here. The offensive line exerting its will, as I mentioned, and having some guys who haven't had a lot of success, let's face it, earlier in their careers, to have that kind of game against the Green Bay Packer front four has really got to be a big boost to them.
It is, and to have the Packers offense come out and score, and then you answer them twice in a row. I mean, this is what we're talking about here with the tight ends and really C.J. Ham as well. You block, you pull, you pull the guard, you pull. Cleveland bounces out. And then Dalvin Cook just takes it right off of that cut. And look at C.J. Ham. C.J. Ham stepping up in there. And so you have all these big bodies on the outside blocking everything down. Your guard pulls and kicks out. C.J. Ham kicks out, and then there's your seam. And it's really a thing of beauty to see it happen.
I think the frustrating part for Viking fans is seeing a play like that. And I'm sorry, you harken back to that Seattle game. You had that fourth and about a foot. And looked like they had it blocked. Okay, maybe CJ didn't take the right hole at that point, but it shows you how a game of inches could have turned the season around for the Vikings by winning that football game.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think you almost have to go back to the Seattle game to find a game where we were as competitive. And it's interesting. It's interesting how we're so competitive on the road. In some pretty tough situations. You go out to Seattle, you go to Lambeau. These are not easy places to play.
Even without fans.
Even without fans. But is it a game of inches? Absolutely. It makes a statement when you as an offense can run the football. Everybody knows it. All 53 guys on the Packer roster knew it. All 20-some of their whatever coaches, the trainers, the guys operating the sticks, the officials, everybody knew what the Vikings game plan was, and they still couldn't stop it. That doesn't happen very often. And for it to happen against this team in Lambeau, I couldn't wish for anything more.
And they didn't turn the ball over. That's such the important stat. They took care of the football.
Yeah, Dalvin let one get away from him, but the ground caused it.
Right.
You listen to Kirk Cousins after the game, and it's kind of a thing where, you manage the game, my friend. That's kind of maybe we've needed him in the past to do certain things, but today, maybe this is what will calm him down or maybe get him back on some type of a rhythm. develop some type of short underneath passing game. I mean,
before we get to some other scores in the NFC North, again, in case you missed it at the beginning, Cam Dantzler was taken off the field. Pretty scary situation. The good news right now is that it looks like it's just a concussion. They had x-rays at Lambeau Field, took him to a hospital for observation. Mike Zimmer mentioned in his news conference that Dantzler was expected to return back with the team tonight. Of course, they'll be evaluating him for the concussion protocol as the week goes on. But it looked like a pretty scary situation. But Pete, you called it right away. You said the way the motion of his neck went, you weren't as concerned, as scary as it looked, because of the way that he got hit by his own teammate.
Yeah, it was Anthony Harris. He was kind of jumping on the back of Dylan, and Anthony Harris, he hits Anthony Harris's thigh, but his face was up, and that's why you always keep your head up. And when he was hit, you'd see the shock, but the head goes back, and that might give you a concussion. Normally, I'm not saying but normally the guys who really injure their necks are the ones when they put their head down. That's why you always want to see what you hit, because when your head is down on that and your spine is straight, it can't give. It can't bend and give. It just compresses, and that's when you get discs and you get nerves and all those things. So Chris Boyd's injury concerns me a lot more. The way he looked and kind of grabbed his knee when he went down, we were, if it was a cramp or if it's his knee. I'm more concerned about Boyd than I am about Dantzler. I think getting a chance to take a look at it, Dantzler will be okay. He might have a concussion. I mean, which is no light thing anyway. But I'm not as worried.
Yeah.
I've seen enough of these injuries. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV either. I'm just saying I've seen enough of this where I think Dantzler will be okay.
The good news is that he was coming back with the team tonight.
Absolutely.
He didn't have to be hospitalized overnight. Detroit Lions come here next week. Everson Griffin, Adrian Peterson. The roar has not been restored. Here's an interesting stat, Pete, not just the final score. Indianapolis rolling 41-21. Phillip Rivers throwing for 262 yards. The Detroit Lions rushed for a total of 29 yards. Adrian Peterson, 5 attempts, 7 yards. So Matthew Stafford had to throw the ball 42 times in their dome today. So it didn't work out real well for the Lions, who dropped to 3-4. Meanwhile, the Bears trying to bounce back from kind of a really tough offensive performance the other night, leading the Saints in Chicago 10-3 as Drew Brees minus Michael Thomas again. That wide receiving core has been beaten up as well. So take a look at the standings right now. The Bears and the Packers tied at 5-2. The Lions at 3-4. The Vikings can tie Detroit. Maybe move up a notch in the standings when they host Detroit, and Everson Griffin here. Kind of an interesting homecoming we'll be able to talk about next Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. And what's great is, we've had, 2 games in our conference. In our division, you still have 4 games left to go. You have Detroit that you have to play twice, and Chicago you have to play twice. Going to Chicago is one thing, having the Bears here is another, but you have an opportunity, for 4 more victories right there and get yourself at least move yourself up on the food chain. Green Bay obviously controls the division at the moment. The Bears are going to have their hands full with the Saints today. I picked the Saints. I just don't think with the Bears, with the defenders that they have out, losing their center Cody Whitehair and some other things, that they would be able to score much more than what they've already put up on the board. But the Lions, they're a team without an identity, I think, right now, especially offensively. They don't have a balance. They're not running the football well, and they're not. They just can't win just throwing the football. That's the thing. They had to throw the ball that many times in the second half.
And I believe Galladay, their top receiver, got injured, so he did not play. So if you look at behind us here at US Bank Stadium, different identity. Mike Zimmer had to patch this thing together in the secondary. Stafford's going to come out slinging the ball. Perfect conditions here next Sunday. Much different atmosphere, much different approach, much different feel for what Matthew Stafford's going to want to do and what the secondary is going to have to face next Sunday.
And I think it's not always who you play, but when you play them.
Yeah.
And if Galladay is not able to play, that's a huge loss for Detroit. We are going to be scratching the bottom of the barrel, and not, nothing against the guys we have, but we didn't expect to start the corners and the guys that we're going to have to start coming into this week. So these are the challenges that you have. Getting in the middle of the season, that's life in the NFL.
You mentioned you don't play a doctor on TV. You also don't play a general manager on TV. But Rick Spielman, like every other GM, has some decisions to make. The trading deadline early in the week this week. Do you expect the Vikings to stand pat, potentially the phone will ring. Maybe Anthony Harris. There'll be people that are going to be mentioned on the trading block.
Yeah, no, you look at if you look offensively. You don't have much in the way of glaring errors, or we've been able to fill the holes on offense. Defensively, I think you really have to take a look and see what's going to happen with Boyd, the long term with Dantzler, because you just need bodies. Josh Patelis came in and played some safety, and Anthony Harris moved to nickel. Do you want to do that, or is there a veteran who's familiar with the system maybe out there that could come and be a backup? Because you're going to want to go with the younger guys. You're going to want to get your younger guys up to speed. You're not looking for a guy who you expect to start and play for the next 4 or 5 years. You have to give up too much to get a guy to come in here and start like that right away. So I think you're looking at depth, and regardless of the trade deadline, you might need some bodies this week. Come by Wednesday, you may have a couple guys flying in just because you need some more. You need someone to fill up a couple lockers.
It's crazy with the way the salary cap works. All of a sudden, there are teams that have glaring issues at certain positions where they're going. You can't just hire somebody off the street.
No,
you can't bring someone up from the minors.
You're absolutely. You're right. And I remember back
the practice squad.
Well, it was 15, 20 years ago when we would have cap casualties. You'd have guys that every year. I remember my first year in the league. It was Brad Culpepper. He was the cap casualty. He was the veteran that was about to make a lot of money, and they let him go. So there was always 2 or 3 of those guys early in the season. Fortunately for all of us, for the NFL, it continues to expand. The salary cap has been growing, and now they've just kind of, with the guaranteed money sneaking in, this is that balance that, the GMs had. This is the wave that they have to surf is, you get you start getting crazy with the guaranteed money, and then all of a sudden now you're up against salary cap again. But, you have to be prudent when it comes to all this. You got to make sure your young guys develop. You want to keep as many young guys as you possibly can. These are all things that Spielman have said, and many of the GMs have said. But regardless, you're going to need, I think, another body or two at corner on this team by the end of the week.
One thing I know about you for sure, Pete, after spending so many years with you, you love beating the Green Bay Packers no matter what the circumstances are.
No.
You love it.
I was born and raised in Chicago in the mid '80s. So you had the Bears and the Super Bowl shuffle, and then I've been up here. This is my 25th season with the Vikings, and
amazing.
The one thing that we have in common with Bear fans is our hatred for the team in between. And
well said.
It's I think that sums it up.
That sums it up. 28-22, the Vikings beating the Packers at Lambeau Field this afternoon. It was an entertaining game, an entertaining finish, that is for sure. And hats off to Dalvin Cook and that offensive line for that performance today. For Pete Bercich, I'm Mark Rosen. Thanks for joining us on Vikings Postgame Live, brought to you by Mystic Lake. We'll see you again next week. Good afternoon.